Uh, Welcome to my world, and welcome to Zenny62 Live on for Raider fans, a rather sad Sunday. Well, no, let me take the rather out of my sentence. Let me just say a sad Sunday, okay? No question about it, because the Kansas City Chiefs beat the Oakland Raiders 26-15, and arguably, yeah, although there's a chance the window just got really, really small. It really did. Because this was that do or die day, that do or die moment that we all believed the Raiders were really going to deliver and win. Hey, Jack Bauer. Hey, 31 Sky. Hey, Barry Lee. For those of you watching this as video on demand, this is a live stream right now, and I'm saying hello to my viewers here and my consistent supporters, like Barry Lee, for example. And thank you for sending the tweet, Mr. Lee. Much appreciated. I'm going to follow you up on with a tweet of my own, as they say, and put this on Facebook and every place else, and just a little more editing. But boy, this is a game where, well, I have to gloat a little bit, just a little bit. And some of you who watch this consistently know what's coming. What is the stuff about John Pagano being so much better than Ken Norton, when I was trying to explain to everybody that it wasn't Ken Norton's fault or really Pagano's, it was Jack Del Rio, okay? And yeah, Ed Reed, how you doing? The OC. That's a cheer. OC has got to go. OC has got to go. That's a cheer, sadly enough. I think the OC needs to go back to quarterback coaching duty. Boy, what else? There's no other way to describe it other than just say the Raiders just pulled an El Stinkeroo. I knew, or I believed, the game was questionable, okay? The first play, when the Raiders gave Marshawn Lynch the handoff on that crossbuck action fake pass that's popular in the NFL, the one where they get, it looks like it's from the read option, they give and also it's from Chip Kelly's offense, give the ball to the receiver, give the ball to the running back, crossing the quarterback, and the running back takes it off tackle. I pointed out in previous live streams that action of run has always resulted in Marshawn Lynch picking up few, if any, yards, and more often than not being down for no gain or a loss. But what do the Raiders do? They opened up with that play after using the I formation successfully, but not building on it. Craziest thing. And I think Ed Reed, I think you're right. I think he's in over his head, he being offensive coordinator Todd Downing. And somewhere Bill Musgrave must be grinning. Must be grinning. Gotta be grinning. This was not the Raiders' finest hour by any means, by any stretch of the imagination, and not at all. Now Ed Reed's asked me, Vegas politicians backpedaling's in. Can you elaborate on that, Ed? I'm reading the text here. For those of you who don't understand what it is that I'm doing, let me show you, and maybe watching for the first time, let me show you. See, this is what Ed says, Ed Reed. Vegas politicians backpedaling's in? Okay, and so I'm asking him to, explain what he means. What's that all about? I don't know. So, but before we talk about the Vegas stuff, let's, finish talking about the game stuff, because that's the matter at hand here, okay? It really is. That's the matter at hand. And, okay, now go back to the matter of also putting this out on Facebook as well. And J-Bay says, I think NFC team won the Super Bowl. Barry Lee says, for no more news information, visit zenny62.com. Thank you. And I'm going to put this out on Facebook real quick. Well, I've got while I got the chance to do so. Welcome to Zenny62 Live. We are talking Raiders' loss to the grand and, somewhat glorious Kansas City Chiefs, although we don't think that they're grand and glorious, right? So, right, I'm typing live stream now, Oakland, and then hashtag Raiders, and excuse me, Raiders, then hashtag live stream. There, okay, and hitting post to Facebook. There, and that is posted in a way. One more tweet, and we'll be back in action here. OAK Viz KC, then hashtag Raiders, then hashtag NFL. And then from this, I'll go right to reading these statistics, which, as they do, tell the game. Tell us what happened, right? Tell us exactly what happened in the game. All right. Here is the statistical breakdown of this. So first of all, the Raiders only gained 268 total yards. The Raiders had 11 yards. I'm not kidding you. I just have to repeat this. The Raiders had a grand total of 70 yards rushing. That was it. The Raiders, 7 rushes by Marshawn Lynch for 61 yards. He had a longest gain, 27 yards. He had just over a 6-yard average. And then Washington had 4 rushes for 9 yards. But the Raiders, they didn't try to pound it at all. I'm looking at this. They ran the ball only 36 times. They had 36 rushes for the entire game. That's it. Excuse me, not 36 rushes. 11 rushes for the entire game. Come on, Zenny, wake up. They had 11 rushes for the entire game. 11. That was it. 11 rushes. By contrast, the Chiefs ran the ball 33 times. They kept it on the ground. And not only that, the Chiefs had a 5-yard rushing average, which means they could pretty much run the ball, not throw much, if at all, and still pick up first downs. So what's this about Pagano? What's this about stopping the run? What's this about defense being so much better? I didn't see it. I told you guys I didn't see it. You all were insisting it was there. I was saying it wasn't there. I said it's not something that Pagano is going to fix. It's Del Rio's fault. Oh, no, it's not Del Rio's fault. It's Del Rio's fault. Let's see here. Steve Mace says, I'm wondering if it's time to move on from Carr. He's not the same since his injuries. Yeah, that's a good question. Let me come back to that. Barry Lee says, you'll have to tell me more about the game because CBS had another game on your market there. Okay, Barry Lee, I'll definitely do that. Kurt Flirt says, what are the quarterbacks behind Carr? 32 Assassin. Hey, long time no see from. Not a joke. That was today. Downing proved today that he's got to go. Steve Macy says, you didn't miss anything, Barry. Kurt Flirt said, the Raiders look just about as bad as my Giants. Yeah. I think, all right, Barry, this is what you missed. You missed a game that started out. I'll give you the full recap. 0831 Scott, hey, how you doing? He says, what's the matter with Derek Carr? He's so inconsistent and some of his passes look terrible. Did that broken leg last year stay in his head and affect his play this year? No, I'm not going to blame it on him. I blame it on a lousy game plan. The Raiders regressed in terms of game plan preparation. They went back to being predictable. And that falls all on Jack Del Rio and Todd Downing. And if some of you say, hey, how come you don't mention Del Rio more with respect to the offense, it's because I've always considered Del Rio a defensive specialist, okay? So I always believe that if you bring in a head coach who's a defensive specialist, you should expect your defense to be better. The best example I can think of is Tom Landry, who was considered a defensive genius when he came came from the New York Giants to coach the Dallas Cowboys and did so for, what, 29 years? So, a long time. I think it's the longest tenure in NFL history. Anyway, that's what I think of. You know, I think of Buddy Ryan, you know, defensive specialists, geniuses. People who have that background. Del Rio has that defensive background, right? So, hey, Richard Lucero, how you doing? He says, hey, it's been a while. Yep, you're right. Defense looks the same. But what I mean by that, just the same. Still a Raiders fan. Oh, yeah, definitely still a Raiders fan. But, hey, we have to point out the horribleness. I just created a new word. The horribleness that was that game. So, Barry, here's the recap for you. I'm gonna read it out to you in terms of what is brought down here. Passing, first of all, it was the Raiders. The Chiefs opened up with a 16-0 lead before the Raiders knew what hit them, and much of it had to do with rollouts and a good mix of rollouts and screens and runs by people like Kareem Hunt, their incredible rookie out of Temple, and the Raiders. Apparently, the Chiefs believe the Raiders are vulnerable to the right side of the Chiefs' offense because all of the Chiefs' big runs came to the right. All of them with Kareem Hunt running that cross-buck action. Either if he wasn't a cross-buck action, it was off tackle. And their tackles and tight ends were either double teaming or getting great blocks on outside linebackers, and they were zone blocking to that side, pushing, and the running back Hunt was moving with them and then gaining yardage as they were pushing. Next thing you know, you got like, 5 yards, 6 yards, 7 yards, 16 yards. You know what I mean? That's the situation. It was that bad. And the Raiders looked like they were going to be shut out. Okay, it really did. And again, the play calling is questionable. The Raiders went back to using a lot of spread concepts that didn't work for them. They went back to using Marshawn Lynch. I'm watching your running play here that is exemplary of the issues that I complained about, where they had the cross buck, and the time Lynch really did well is they had tried that cross buck, which is it was a cross buck action, but then there's a cutback that goes with it that Stanford, among others, has used. And so Lynch cut back really well in the first half, picked up about, I believe, 13 yards and a first down. And that was it. There was nothing else to really to celebrate. No use of the I formation. No I formation play action. Now, the Raiders, in going through this game, I'm looking for a summary here, but you've got, okay, here's a summary. Passing, Derek Carr had 24, 41, 211 yards, 1 touchdown, but he not only had 1 interception, he had 2 interceptions. Looking for, details behind the reasons for the Raiders' loss. Marshawn Lynch, 7 rushes, 61 yards, 1 touchdown. His longest game was 27 yards. Washington, 4 rushes, 9 yards, no touchdown. Longest game was 9. Receiving, Jarrett Cook, great tight end, was the leader. 5 receptions, 75 yards, 1 touchdown. Longest 29 yards and a touchdown over the middle. That was a beautiful route, beautiful throw. Michael Crabtree, 7 for 60 yards. Longest game was 13. Roberts, 3 for 24. Longest game was 11. Holton, 2 for 16. Longest game was 10. Walford, 2 for 13. Longest game was 7. Washington, 1 for 10. Patterson, Cotterell, who really didn't get off the mark this time. 3 for 8, longest gain 7. Imagine that. Cotterell Patterson's longest gain was 7 yards. Mark Cooper didn't play. Mark Cooper had gained 210 yards against the Chiefs in the first meeting this year. And Marshawn Lynch had 1 pass reception for 3 yards. Johnny Holton lost the ball on a fumble. Telvecchio kicking. No field goals by him. King punted 7 times for an average of 35.6 yards. Longest was 53 yards. And Navarro Bowman led all Raiders defenders with 8 tackles. And so total first downs for the Raiders, 15. 3 by rushing, 10 by passing, 2 by penalty. Third down efficiency, just 38%. Fourth down efficiency, 100%. Total net yards, 268 yards. 11 rushing plays. The average gain per rush was 6.4. So think about it. The Raiders, had they stayed on the ground with a better, well, not even a better offensive design, but just emphasizing the run, arguably would have kept the ball out of the Chiefs' hands with this kind of average. 6.4 yards per carry. That's what I'm reading here. But they only ran it 11 times. 11. They were tackled for loss, 2 tackles for loss, losing a total of 4 yards, excuse me. Net yards passing, 198. 3 sacks. Derek Carr went down. His gross yards, as I told you, was 211 passes. Again, 24, 41, 2, and 2 interceptions. So average gain per pass play, which includes the sacks, is just 4.5. So there's something as well. The Raiders threw 41 times. 41. And they only were able to gain 4.5 yards per pass, 6.4 yards per rush. So when the Raiders were trying to throw, and I think that's the best way to put it, they were not effective in terms of average yards. 4.5 yard average. 4.5. That is just simply awful. No, kicks 3, 1 in the end zone for touchback, punted 7 times, average 40.9 yards, none are blocked. So those are the basic statistical summaries for the Raiders. Now, for the Kansas City Chiefs, it breaks down to this. You've got Alex Smith, 20 of 34, 268 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. Kareem Hunt, 25 for 116 yards, a big difference. They kept feeding the ball. 25 rushes for Kareem Hunt versus just 7 for Marshawn Lynch. 7. Again, 7. Somewhere between here and Kansas City, Marshawn Lynch has got to be screaming his head off. No question about it. West, 3 for 25. Longest gain, 13 yards. Longest gain for Hunt was 17. Alex Smith, 5 for 24. Longest gain was 16 yards. Receiving, Mr. Hill, Tyreek Hill, 4 for 75. Longest was 44 yards. Kelsey was 7 for 74, 20. Wilson, 5 for 72, 36 yards was his longest. Harris, 1 for 25 for 25 yards. Hunt, 3 for 22 for 11 yards longest. No fumbles lost. No fumbles by the Chiefs. No fumbles by the Chiefs. 4 field goals attempted. Colquitt punted 3 times, average 34.3 yards. Longest was 55 yards. Touchdown returns, Thomas 1 for 20. Punt returns, Hill 3, average of 5. No touchdowns, of course. Longest game was 13. Mr. Mitchell led all the Chiefs defenders with 4 tackles. So you've got total first downs for the Chiefs, 23 versus 15 for the Raiders, which almost matches their score. By rushing 10, by passing 12, by penalty 1. Third down efficiency, 38%, same as the Raiders. Fourth down efficiency, they didn't have any fourth downs to try. Total net yards, 408. Total rushing passing plays, 71 versus just 55 for the Raiders, which means the Raiders defense could not get the Chiefs off the field to get the ball back for its offense. Okay? That's what that means right there. Average gain per offensive play, 5.7 for the Chiefs, 4.9 for the Raiders. Net yards rushing, 165. You can win with that. Total rushing plays, 33. They committed themselves to the run. They committed themselves to the run, okay? And average gain per running play, again, 5 yards, but versus 6.4 for the Raiders. Still 5 yards. Not one run was tackled for a loss, whereas the Raiders had 2, okay? Note that. Net yards passing, 243. They're sacked 4 times. 4 sacks. Gross yards passing was 268. Passes, 20 of 34, 1 interception. 6.4 yards per pass play versus 4.5 for the Raiders. Another difference. So you have a commitment to the run, 5 yards per rush, 6.4 yards per pass play. Okay? So, I mean, look, the numbers say it right off the bat. First of all, the Raiders were plagued by an offense that couldn't finish drives and a defense that could not get the opponent's offense off the field. There's your game. So there's your summary, Barry. There's your summary. Now, sorry, I'll get back to your question, your comments and questions and complaints. All right. Now, which there are a lot of them. Jack Bauer is here, and Jack Bauer is pissed. And Jack Bay says Reggie McKenzie has some decisions to make in the offseason. Steve Macy says, I tweeted Lincoln Kennedy, and he thinks Carr's injuries are still in his head, causing him to be tentative, and that's a recipe for disaster. I disagree with Mr. Kennedy. Jack Bauer says Jack needs to go. Ed Reed is calling for Willie Shaw. Steve Macy says McKenzie hasn't done a very good job. His best drafts fell into his lap. His record is not very good. I'm starting to agree that, it's not what you want. Because, again, I go back to the whole Cam Robinson example versus if we had Cam Robinson, he would have played and started. Donald Penn would have been back up on the bench or released. And maybe Sharp would have replaced him. But I really believe the Raiders overthought this draft when they had quality players. I say we had quality players right there in our lap without making any special kind of movements or calling any special type of investigator, if you know what I mean. So, no. No, I mean, not at all. 32 Assassin says, uninspired effort. Has the staff lost the players? It looks a lot like it. Could very well be. Barry Lee says, Reggie, how about Mark Davis having to make some decisions on whether to fight a lawsuit that he knows he'll lose? Jack Bauer says, it's not Jack's fault, it's Carr. Nah, I think it's Jack. Sorry. Jack's the head coach. He sets the tone. But not only that, when you blame Derek Carr, you basically are admitting that the game plan that he was given was flawless. It's like Tom Landry used to say to his players on his worst days, I gave you a perfect game plan and you blew it. Well, sometimes if a player blows your game plan wasn't perfect. It's your fault, okay? Straight up, it's your fault. Because game plans generally don't work because the opponent does something that causes the game plan not to work. That's most of the time. Coaches don't want to admit that because it means they lose their jobs. But the fact is, if you have a sucky game plan, you know what? Hey, not going to happen. Eagles 43, Rams 35. How about that? Carson Wentz gets knocked out, but the Eagles show their depth, and the Rams show that, hey, they make mistakes at crucial times, and they drop a crucial matchup for for NFL National Football Conference supremacy. So, Jack Bauer says, Kurt Flirt says to Jack Bauer, it's the same as with the Giants. It's not McAdoo's fault that the Giants have been playing that bad. Oh, give me a break. It's Eli and the rest of the team as well. I admit it, we need a new quarterback. No, you got quarterbacks. The problem is coaching. And McAdoo wasn't the right choice. Because he was great on offense, he wasn't the right choice. Okay. Steve Macy says, last year we got lucky on a few wins. Maybe this is all just we are a 7 or 8 win team. It could, look, part of the game is luck. But it also, another part of it is coaching skill, and that's far too often discounted. 831 Scott says, watching the Rams game right now, and it looks like Eagles home game in Los Angeles, those fans in LA can't even show up for a great Rams team. I don't think they need an NFL team. And the prices are too expensive. One person put on my Twitter account on Zenny62 that, hey, it would help if the NFL didn't charge $200 per seat. As I have said before, and is true, the Los Angeles region has the highest rate of underemployment in the United States. 25% at the time. This was 2013. And given the homeless problem, the housing problem, I would not be surprised to learn that it was as high as perhaps 35%. What does that mean? It means when you're underemployed, you're not making as much money as you need, for example. It basically means this. Your payment for rent or your mortgage payment should be not greater than 33% of your monthly income. If it's greater than that, you are, by definition, underemployed. You're not making enough money to have a cushion to buy things, take a vacation, live. If you're committing half your monthly income to housing, you got a problem. So, that's a lot of the United States today. But I digress, okay? Barry Lee says, hey, Steve, at least we're not the Browns year after year. Yeah. Raven says, a new stadium in Inglewood, ... means the Rams have to win. Steve Mason, that's a great point. By Ravens Insider. Steve Macy says, Eagles beat Rams. Yes, they did. 43-35. Eagles proving that they are the tops of the NFL. Barry Lee says, 831 Scott, did you notice that Fox made sure to show the celebrities at the game in LA? That's why they have a team there. Sofa King says, Carr doesn't run anymore, timid about that broken leg. No, it's not so much that he's timid about the broken leg. It's just that they don't allow him spaces to run or call runs. Musgrave had a penchant for brilliant special plays. One such play occurred, I believe this was actually against the Broncos 2 years ago, where they used an unbalanced line where you had just the guard on the weak side and then the center, and then Carr rolled out to that side. There was nobody there. He picked up 30 yards. It's that kind of brilliant thinking. Doesn't get pointed out in the mainstream media, but it's missing from the Raiders today. Hold on a second. Oh, it's a hit and run in downtown Oakland, right at 30th and Broadway. Oh, that's awful. Excuse me, not 30th and Broadway. Broadway and 14th. And I've got right downtown. Oh, sad. Right downtown Oakland at what looks like, and it is Franklin and 14th. A hit and run. That's all I know. Just I had to see that because it was something that I know the area around there, okay? Back to reading your comments. Do the playmakers come out of the game on third downs? Sometimes they do. Because you have it's a matter of, and I'm not saying I agree with this, but trying to get the right matchup. And I heard Rich Gannon complaining about Crabtree being taken out and replaced by Holton. And you had your tight end, number 87, taken out of the play on a number of occasions. But it's done because the organization, the coaches, play matchup ball, and they believe that they have a particular combination of wide receivers and running backs that can match up with the anticipated defensive personnel for that down and distance at that time in the game. I'm not saying I agree with that strategy. I'm saying that's what they do. And at the end of the day, you have to block and throw and catch and tackle. Okay? So, Corvette says, Wentz might have suffered torn ACL. Sad if true. It is. Another great young quarterback going down by injury. We've got to investigate these injuries. They're too often. Barely wants a new coach for the Raiders, and as he says, can keep control of the players and has better play calling. Pauline Luke says talking about Todd Downey has to go. Johnny August, A-U-G-Z, August, Carr gets scared. Jack Bauer says, I agree with Barry. Pauline Luke says, Carr is too soft. John Marks says, no LA Super Bowl. He doesn't want that. How you doing, John Marks? Rob Hyman, how you doing? Fact or fiction, he asks. Quentin Jefferson gets an indefinite suspension. I'll have to check that one. If anybody else can help me out by checking that, let me know, okay? Let me know. Brian Guidry says, hello, everyone. I only have a minute or so, so I'll make this quick. I wasn't high as some of the on the record predictions for this year. Draft, coaching staff change, and a few others. I hope they finish. Jack Bauer says, Raiders always outcoached every week. It does seem that way. Panthers versus Patriots in the Super Bowl. Don't the Panthers look like a sleeper. The Panthers look like that one team that could give the Eagles a run for their money, especially with, the quarterback problem the Eagles have now. Brian Guidry says strong, but I almost hope they lose outright and get a whole coaching staff rebuilt. Happy holidays to you. Happy holidays to you, Brian. Rob Iman says Del Rio and McKenzie will be on the hot seat next year. How about this year? John Mark says, can you imagine the price to a Vegas Raider game? I don't want to think about it. Yeah, John Mark says, barely. I can't imagine the Vegas price is 0-0 because it ain't happening. Good comeback. John Mark says, I agree, barely. John Mark says, but a lot of people believe that it's happening. I don't give a shit what anybody believes. Excuse my language. Jamal Harris says, what you think of the Jags? I think the Jaguars are exciting. Ted Cook says, and they are using their personnel smartly, and they draft it wisely. Ted Cook says, I live in L.A., and I ain't even driving to Vegas to see Carr, if he lasts that long. I don't think Derek Carr, I really believe that Derek Carr will not be an Oakland Raider by 2021. I don't see him being a Raider that long. I really don't. This is 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21. That's 5 years. I don't see him being the 5-year man. I don't. It's not that I dislike Derek Carr. I don't. It's not for any other reason than the changes to come. And the changes to come in coaching staff and an approach, given the young guns coming out of college, given the emphasis on speed at the quarterback position and accuracy while throwing. Not that Derek doesn't have it, but he's not a Russell Wilson type. And Lamar Jackson coming out is a Russell Wilson type. I think there's going to be too much pressure to keep Derek. And that's based on what I see this year with what Carr isn't doing with his contract. And there's going to be, if this continues, okay, there's going to be a question at some point of whether or not you want to carry his hefty contract if his performance is not among the top level of players in the NFL, and right now it's not. If that continues, I just can't see it happening. Look, let's see what happens next year. But again, if we have a coaching change, this was the year to get things done. This is that fulcrum year. This is that hub, that year on the spot, okay? And so if you don't have the Raiders didn't have the success they thought and we thought they were going to have And so now you have a team that's on the throes of big change, an organization that's on the throes of big change. And that does not spell a scenario that points to Derek Carr being a Raider for his entire career. Okay, as much as the contract is written for him to be that, there's something here where I just don't see that. It's not a desire. It's a prognostication. All right, so it's a sad one. All right, I'll give him 4 years as a Raider, and then the Raiders will consider shopping him, or perhaps something will happen. Something like that will happen. Okay, something like that will happen. So Leonard Titus says, "Happy holidays, Zinni. All I want for Christmas is Del Rio fired." I like Jack, and so it's not an issue of that. But Jack needs to lay down on paper what he wants as a team and design it, and then find the people to fill in those holes, and then properly evaluate them and himself as he goes along. But there's no question he needs to change how he does things. They don't strike me as analytically driven as I'd like to see them. They're kind of like the Bucs. You know, Dirk Carter, the Buccaneers, their coach, he's not an analytics guy. You can't not be an analytics guy in today's game. And I'm not saying Del Rio isn't. He is. But, I mean, the Raiders are. But not to the degree they need to be to make the adjustments to win. So, and I don't mean personnel adjustments. I mean scheme adjustments and so on. Okay, Melvin Lovejoy, how are you? Steve Macy says the Raiders won't get rid of Del Rio. They just signed him to an extension. Hey, you know what? I've seen coaches sign the extensions and then bounced. So, whoop-de-doo. Jamal Harris says Jags versus Panthers Super Bowl. Ted Cook says Raiders need a new head coach that's not a buddy guy. Richard Lucero says I walked out for a minute, but just asking, how do we fare in the playoff hunt? I know we got to win the last 3 games, still hoping. I'll look at that in a second. Ravensire says, is Jimmy G better than Carr? I don't think you can. There's a basis for comparison. You have to put them in the same offense to determine that. They play offenses that are significantly different in philosophy and execution. So I would not at all make that comparison. Steve Macy says yes. Rob Iman says Malice at the Palace in Jacksonville today. Malice at the Palace. Keith Richards says, Merry Christmas. Do you think the Raiders eat the last 3 years of Del Rio's contract and fire him in the offseason? I think it's very possible. Ted Cook says, even if we make the playoffs, we would lose. It's over. I have to review that and see where we are going, because we've got some tough customers coming up. We just lost to one of them. Aaron Blaylock says, Carr will be on his 3rd team in 2021, but I hope I'm wrong. He'll be a success here. And I don't think he'll be on his 3rd team by 2021, but you know what? Maybe a 2nd team. Raven says, I'm a Raiders fan in Baltimore, but not a Ravens fan. Ted Cook says, quit talking playoffs. Rob Iman says, McKenzie could be fired with Del Rio. That's usually the logical development. Steve Macy says, you know I'm tired of Raider talk, Zinni. I hope you and your family and all the Zinters have a very Merry Christmas. Now I feel better. Thank you. See Star Wars. I'm ready. Got my tickets. Rob Iman says, Raiders would bring in a QB whisperer first before trading Carr. I thought Todd Downing was supposed to be that. Jack Bowers said, Jack is not a good coach. Rah-rah guy at best. Rob Iman says, Carr would do well with Shanahan. Ted Cook says, right. Richard Lucero says, let's put it this way. Carr, Del Rio, McKenzie, and Vegas all out. Laugh out loud. Joshua Teets writes, I feel Derek Carr has pulled us out of the fire enough times to be given the benefit of the doubt. Downey needs to go, period. DBs need improvement. Raider Kuko, how you doing? Hi, Zenny. Very disappointed. Offensive coordinator must go. Ted Cook says, Carr misses the equivalent of layups every game. Ted Cook says game. I got all of your comments to this point. So, hey, Barry Lee, if you're still around, would you tweet out one more under hashtag Raider Nation. Thank you, because that's exactly what I'm going to do myself. And we'll continue the fun. Now, in terms of adjustments I would make, first of all, here's the other problem, okay? And it's not a matter of saying, okay, we want to blow out the coaching staff, right? The point is, why? What's wrong? And I'll tell you what's wrong. The problem is that, the problem, pure and simple, is that the Raiders forgot how to design a diverse passing game. Jamie Clay says, when every original Star Wars come out, the Raiders won the Super Bowl. Ooh. Well, this wasn't an original one. And yeah, here it comes out. Now, getting back to my point, the Raiders didn't have Carr rolled out. There was no, did you see play action? Did anybody see a play action pass? Hello? Play action, anybody? Did you see one? Play action? The Raiders seem allergic to the idea of play action. You know? How can you have a powerful running game and no play action? Joshua says they try to play fancy in the beginning with little trick plays and whatnot. Need to shove the ball down the other team's throat and let Carr air it out on offense. Yeah. Did anyone see play action? Play action going once. Play action going twice. Play action. I'm looking for a play action. As Joshua C says, nope, I didn't see it. Ted Cook says no play action. No play action. So how the hee-kee-keys can you... Yeah, I say hee-kee-keys. That's a new word. Hee-kee-keys. How in the hee-kee-keys can you expect to have an effective running game and no play action? So they clamped down on your running game, as the Chiefs did, and you got nothing to make them pay for it. I mean, that is the hallmark, having that, of a logical, expected offensive attack, which the Raiders don't have. And yet they let Downing do that, which means the bosses don't know what they're doing either. Coach Del Rio, come on, Jack, what you doing, man? Unbelievable. You know their ideal play action? Hand off the ball to the back and then have this fake pass after the handoff is done. What the heck? The hee-kee-dee-kees is that? I don't get it. 831 Scott says, what do you think about Herman Edwards being new coach at Arizona State? He's a Bay Area guy. Too bad the Raiders couldn't have got him. He's a great coach. We'll see. I'll be blunt. I think Herb Edwards has been away from the game for quite a while, and I'm anxious to see if he has enough of a contemporary mind to embrace and implement the latest football schematic technologies for Arizona State. So that's what I'm looking forward to seeing. And I believe the players will respond as young adults to his voice. I believe they'll play for him. I'm just curious to see what they will do offensively and defensively from a playbook standpoint. And I don't mean to say it's going to be negative. You could also say there's nothing necessarily wrong with old school football. It's football. I just want to see what he does. I'm curious. I'm not ready to say he's going to win. I'm concerned that he's been away from the game for a while. We'll see what happens. I want to see who his coaching staff is. I want to see if he surrounds himself with people who've been in the game or people who, are, in a sense, beneath, maybe not so confident enough to question him or be partners with him. That's going to be interesting. I haven't seen his staff yet. I don't know if he's completed putting it together yet. So, Rob Iman thinks Herb Edwards is a bad hire. At the college level, I disagree. Ted Cook says, it looks like the receivers are not even helping to separate. It's weird. Well, Ted, you have to put them in situations where they can separate. Like, for example, look at how the Falcons went to the bunch formation when they were having problems with Julio, when Julio Jones was having problems getting separation from Marshawn Lattimore. All right, so there's an example. The Falcons formationed their way out of the problem, something the Raiders did not do. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about adjusting in-game adjustments. All right. Keith Richards says, do you think Derek Carr is approached by McKenzie in the offseason to rework his contract based on his disappointing year? No, because it has some incentives. It has some auto adjustments. Ted Cook says, like Downing has them all running straight go routes. Well, he doesn't. But it's more to it than that. There are passes he doesn't have. What he has a straight drop back, an occasional rollout, an occasional waggle. No, an occasional rollout and an occasional, that's it, no waggle. There's no play action. There's no sprint out, okay? There's no cross-field flea flicker. There's no wildcat where the quarterback's out here and the running back's back there, right? They could run it with Marshawn Lynch. Where's the wildcat? I don't know. Where's the wildcat? Wow. And when I think of play action alone, I think of all the variations of play action they can run from all the different formations, including ones they use right now, and I just get sick to my stomach. The Raiders aren't using them. The Raiders have a simple offense. So they've cut down plays, emphasized a few, and the plays they emphasized are not the right tools to attack a defense. So, Ted Cook says Carr should thank God for $10 million. And Rob Iman says Raiders should hire an offensive mind to replace Del Rio. Yep. Kevin Sumlin, from Texas A&M. Lucida Osana says Carr and receivers should stop dropping passes and stop throwing picks and incomplete passes. Joshua Teeth says, I must say, last year we were 6th in offense in the league. Now we're upper 20s. Improvement on running back, tight end, and weapons in O. I think scheme. I think we have the weapons. We have the personnel. It's scheme. I mean, I'm watching Carr just throwing the coverage here, among other things. Joshua Teeth says, my bad. In Patterson, Musgrave leaves biggest difference. Yes. Ted Cook said, did someone say scramble? Carr said, no, sunny side up. Barrier 408 says, go Cowboys in the Raiders season. Hey, Barry Lee, are you still around by chance? Here's Carr talking about how he says, I sucked, but you know what? It's a little difficult to be great when you got defenders in your face, running around you, crowding you out. Keith Richards says, what players are not retained next year? Wow, okay. What players are not retained next year? Michael Crabtree? I would say Michael Crabtree. Yep. I would say Richard. And even though I disagree with this, I say Marshawn Lynch. Okay, even though I disagree with it because I believe it's going to be controversial when it happens. But on the other hand, he signed for 1 year, didn't he? But Marshawn Lynch is the heart and soul of the Raiders, okay? He just is. But the Raiders did not treat him with the playbook respect you'd ask for. They didn't give him a package all of his own, and they didn't really think it through. All right? Joshua says 2 years for Lynch. I hope I'm wrong. But my gut tells me that the Raiders are going to go in a direction away from Marshawn Lynch. And I think it will be an enormous mistake and lose a lot of people. I so hope I'm wrong. I so hope I'm wrong. But the problem is, to me, they've set Marshawn Lynch up to fail by not putting him in, the offense that he normally excels in. And what's bothersome is you can see on video, and the statistics from video bear out what I'm saying. When you play him in formations he's accustomed to playing in, he does well with the Raiders. When you play him in formations he hasn't done well in at all in the past and don't make any sense to use in plays, he doesn't do well. I really believe they're deliberately not getting the best out of him. And you would say, why would a team do that? And I would say, politics. I would say, the idea that we want to do X. Look at Adrian Peterson and the Saints. They did him that way. Sean Payton brought him in and didn't use Adrian Peterson the way Adrian Peterson wanted to be used. Sean Payton used him the way he wanted him to be used. And so the marriage lasted, a couple of games? And he got shipped off to a better place, Arizona. So, where they did what he wanted. So there's an example of what I'm talking about. Keith Richards says, does Mark Davis have the guts to fire McKenzie if he has another poor draft? I don't think it's guts. I think it's a necessity. But the question is, firing is one thing. Everyone wants to fire everybody. My question is, who do you replace that someone with? And one day I think we'll get to that. Who do you replace that someone with? Who becomes the replacement person, Who do you replace? And Lusuto Oscana says the Raiders are a Mexican team and you hate cowgirls? I mean, this is a nonsensical comment. Lucitio says the Raiders are a Mexican team. I hate cowgirls. And then says, just a second ago, yup. I have no idea. That makes absolutely no sense. And then follows up with, it's true. And whatever your name is, what you just wrote doesn't make any sense. Kurt Flirt says, should have kept McGloin. Rob Iman says, keep it classy in here. Lucio says, I'm sorry. That's okay. I mean, hey, you're new. Welcome to Zenny 62. Moving forward. Rob Iman says, I got that one. Let's see here. Kurt Flirt says, should have kept McGloin. Over who? As opposed to getting E.J. Manuel or what? I'm curious. Okay? Over who? Oh, Chargers. Hold on a second. Did the Chargers win? I'm leaning over to see if the Chargers won. L.A., they're playing the Washington Redskins, and wow, Phillip Rivers uncorked. Woo, a touchdown. Wow. And so the final of that game was Chargers 30, Redskins 13. Holy Kaloli. Another coach that might be on the hot seat, Jay Gruden. Watch out. Excuse me. Another coach that is on the hot seat, Jay Gruden. Chargers won. The Chargers are hot. Now, let's see here. Lucia says, some people want E.J. Manuel over Carr and Carr benched. What's your take? Okay, I don't think it's a question of Carr being bad or better than E.J. Manuel. I hold that there are serious problems with the way the Raiders' offensive game plans are designed. And they're too simple, too predictable, devoid of the proper number of tools to take advantage of a defense's weaknesses and employ those tools during the game. You can't blame the quarterback for problems that are there by design. Okay? Can't do that. So, Kurt says something is up with Cousins, too. He hasn't been really good. Kurt Fleur says, Zinni, but Carr is so inaccurate right now. But when you say inaccurate, Kurt, I challenge you on that. Was a receiver so wide open that he missed him? And also this. I go back to the Bill Walsh school of passing. You drill and you drill so that a quarterback can complete a pass in spite of close coverage. At the Raider training camp, I don't see the evidence of the Raiders doing that. They throw, sure, but I don't see the timed passing drills. 1, 2, 3, get it here on this. Boom, 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 boom. Throw it right down here at the numbers. Just basics. Coaching the basics of passing, but not only just coaching the basics of passing with respect to timed design, the timed pass. I don't see the Raiders paying attention to that. How can you pay attention? In fact, you can't. A lot of the Raiders' throws are not classic time passes. They're these throw up and catch types. Throw it up on a fly pattern. Throw it up here. You don't have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, boom. 1, 2, boom. 1, 2, boom. Rhythm passes. Oh, by the way, where was the no huddle offense? I didn't see it. Did you? Get up, no huddle. Boom. No huddle. Off tackle. No huddle. Misdirection pass. No huddle. End around. No huddle. Waggle. No huddle. No huddle, no huddle, no huddle. Where's the variation? Where's the pushing where's the offense pushing the defense? None of that was there. None of that was there. Melvin Lovejoy says, trade Amari Cooper for veteran quarterback. Cooper is not a true number one. He doesn't have the hunger. No, Melvin, I don't agree with that. He does have the hunger, but he's used to being the man. I disagree. Let's see here. We've got Lucerto says the secondary needs to step up and tackle. I have to say, I normally don't agree with that sort of thing, but this time I do. The secondary, which in some cases being just out-muscled. And Keith Richards says, by the way, my last name is pronounced... Okay, fine. Bob Ivan says, Jay Gruden is toast. Dan Snyder wants a scapegoat. Rob Iman claims that Connor would get a look if Carr were benched. Well, they drafted him. They should give the man a chance if they're not happy with Carr. But I have a feeling right now, I don't think you throw that. To do that right now is ridiculous. You don't throw away the season that way. That would be throwing away the season. Carr's not injured. He's playing. He's active. Give him a chance to play out the string and improve. Hey, you never know. The playoffs could still fall to the Raiders. They have 7 losses. They could go in, 9-7? So that it would mean having to win 3 more games. They would have to win 3 more games out. Having said that, they don't look like the team that can do it. They don't. So, let's see here. Hey, Juan Ramirez, how you doing? Corvette, how you doing? Corvette says Chargers win the West. They look the best. A deliberate rhyme. Rob Iman says Chiefs play Chargers on Saturday. And Lucito Oshana says we need some vets on offense and a defense that knows what they're doing like Bowman. That's, as Mr. Spock would say, that is colloquially put, but essentially correct. Navarro Bowman is a seasoned, wily, crafty veteran who understands how to read offensive formations, read and react to the play, and could very well design a defense and assignments all by himself, and I think he should be given the opportunity to do that, elevated to player coach. Ted Cook says, Cook was very good in college. Kurt Flirt says, I think they're scared to win those plays, Zenny, because Carr himself isn't right. You can even see it in his body movements. He looks scared. I have to check that out, But if you look scared, hey, what better way to give a quarterback confidence than having a run game that the quarterback can rely on, right? Hand it off to Lynch, let him give it 20. And it looked like we were on our way to that, not only when he made that nice little cutback, but also the previous game when the Raiders were using a variety of formations, including the eye, to help Marshawn get untracked, and that he had 100 yards rushing. So they went from 100 yards rushing to 67, and it wasn't that the Chiefs were bottling them up. The Raiders essentially helping the Chiefs by going back to their bad schematic habits. Juan Ramirez says, "Word up, family." As I said hello to him. Kurt Fuller says, "Zinni, laugh out loud. The season is over." Rob Island says, "Chiefs play Chargers this Saturday." Ted Cook says, "Cooper is tired of Carr's high throws." Not only that, so is Cook. Carr gives more concussions than Vontae Burfict. And by the way, point of order, it was Cook I was referring to when I was talking about Todd Downing and the Raiders taking out what you would think would be the right personnel for a clutch situation, as Mitch Gannon was talking about, when both Cook and Crabtree were taken out on a third down. I think it was in the third quarter. I was saying that sometimes coaches do that because they have certain matchups. Hey, sometimes also certain players are injured at a certain time and they maybe need to, go get fixed. Lucifer says the AFC West is the hardest. Says Bowman should be kept until Bowman retires. Kerfer says, "Zinni, who do they beat right now? Not Seattle, not the Chargers, not the Rams, not the Chiefs. Cowboys." Juan Ramirez says, "This season has been compromised by Davis' distraction with Vegas plans to move." There may be something to that. And Ted Cook says, "Lynch is MVP." Well, yeah. Raiders aren't winning. And Lucito says, "In the fourth quarter, Carr was in the exact same position before in the Thursday night game." Yeah, that's right. And the outcome was different. Aspen says, "Bolt Nation." Bzzz. Got it. Okay. Got it. And Kurt Flirt says, Keith Richards says, "Who possibly replaces Downing offensive coordinator?" I don't think, let me put it this way. You could bring Musgrave back, but if you brought Musgrave back, you would have to give him the title of, I don't believe he had this before, maybe of assistant head coach. You'd have to give him that. Assistant head coach offense. Let me see if what was his title with the Raiders before. Let's see here. Bill Musgrave. I'll have it. Then I've got a I wrote Bill Musgrave. Then I've got to stop this stream a little bit because I got to head to the airport, folks. And I'll pick up the stream later from the airport. Bill Musgrave is 50 years old. Boy, Bill Musgrave is 50? He looks older than me. And I'm older than he. How'd that be? Interesting. He. Okay, so they have, hold on a second. Yeah, I got to show you this, though. This is Bill Musgrave, all right? This is Bill Musgrave. Hold on a second. This is Bill Musgrave. And that's me. And he's 50. I would have thought 60. Interesting. I'm just saying it. Just making an observation. Don't mean to ruffle any feathers. Just surprised. I just thought, just surprised. I'm just surprised. To which he points out, "I'm richer than you." Okay, fine. Anyway, Ted Cook wants Hugh Jackson as offensive coordinator. I think he was stuck in there. Melvin Lovejoy says it's a high-stress job, so you get, Lucito says, Raider Nation for life, or para siempre. I believe that's how you say it in Spanish. If we want the Super Bowl badly, we have to play like we want it really bad. Nah. And Rob Iman does not want Hugh Jackson at all. Aspen wants Norv Turner. Rob Iman's choice would be Mike McCoy. as offensive coordinator. I think we really need I want Kevin Sumlin as head coach, because that passing, the air raid, is a scheme the Raiders are past time for implementing. And Sumlin's available. He was coach at Texas A&M. He's one of the fathers of the air raid attack. The air raid is the modern variation of the Sid Gilman, Al Davis style of passing, and it's very effective with Johnny Manziel and others. I think it's high time the Raiders did that. Kurt Flirt says they need Musgrave back. True, but they need something to happen with Carr also. His language isn't right. Corvette, what do you mean by that? Corvette says Mike Tice to finish season next year, get a proven OC. Mike Tice is more your offensive line guy, and I thought he done a great job. And Corvette wants Musgrave to stay in Denver. Lucida says Raider Nation. I said that one. And Ted Cook says Hugh Jackson had us winning with no talent. John Marks says Mike McCoy might help the Raiders. Rick Rice, who would you like to see as offensive coordinator for the Raiders? That is the question at hand right now. And Lucida wants the Raiders to move to Arizona. Pfft. Rob Iman says Jimmy G is thriving with the West Coast offense. Yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo. Yep, he certainly is. Kurt Furt says his body language isn't right. I meant to put it. Oh, well, if you got hit that much, yours wouldn't be either. Rick Rice says we would do better if Pagano was our offensive coordinator and Downing was our defensive coordinator. Rick Rice, that is, in one word, twisted. Hey, Otis B., how you doing? Rob Imans thinks that Jimmy G will get franchised. Talking about Jimmy Garoppolo. Lucida says, what's wrong with the O-line? What happened? Nothing. Corvette is correct. Hugh Jackson is staying in Cleveland. Owner said he'd be back in 2018. Rick Rice says we need Joe Flacco. Seriously. I mean, what? BS aside, Rick Rice, give us a serious request. Who would you like to see? Make it serious. Ted Crook says Hugh Jackson is creative. He is. I'm not laughing. He is. Very. Lucido says I miss McFadden. Ted Crook says smart owner. Triplet says, okay, seriously, who let Bill Musgrave go? Was it Reggie McKenzie or Jack Del Rio? I believe that was Del Rio. And I believe it had to do with Musgrave calling, I think it was a combination of Del Rio and Davis. And because I remember watching the game with Morris Bradshaw, the Denver game on Sunday night of the year ago, and we had a third, and we had first and goal on the 1, and we tried to get in, and we passed 3 times. And only did we score after running the ball. And Morris was apoplectic, and so was I. Just run the ball in, you got a yard. I mean, we won the game, but the reaction among many pointing to Musgrave was just, I mean, the writing on the wall was right there. And I don't know that Jack and he got along after that as well as they should have. So, Triple says, then JDR should go talk about Jack Del Rio because Bill Musgrave is an above-average offensive coordinator. Yeah. Hugh Jackson is not the problem in Cleveland. They've threatened to go 0-16 in 2 seasons in a row, but they have no talent on that roster. Yeah. I like Hugh a lot, and I'm glad he's sticking around for an extra year. But I'm sorry, scheme solves all problems. People can lean on lack of personnel as a crutch, but at some time, you have to sit back and you have to coach your tail off. And by that, I mean use approaches that people don't expect. Look at what Tony Sperano did with the Kansas City Chiefs. I think it was back in, 2007 with a wing T, and maybe before that. But he used something that no one expected, blew out the heavily favored New England Patriots, shocked the league, went 11-5 that year. So I really disagree with that. Coaching can make a difference. I'm not sold on this whole personnel jazz at all. Kurt says the problem in Cleveland is Kaiser and his foolish playmaking. He just got there, Kurt. He just got there this year. He's a rookie. Come on. I mean, you know better than that. That's not an intelligent comment. And you can make intelligent comments. You know for yourself that's not an intelligent comment. You draft the man. The man's supposed to learn your scheme, okay, and your system. He's supposed to draft. He's supposed to play in game plans you draw up. He's a rookie, and you're going to blame everything on him? No, blame yourself. That's what you do. Forget it. Otis B says, John Mark says Jason Campbell. Otis B says, yeah, Jimmy G is staying in San Francisco. I would think so. At least I hope so. Look at how much different the Niners are playing ever since he took over as starting QB. QB was the problem with the Niners, as it turns out. And it was the problem, but my point is that the Niners did not run exactly the same plays with him that they did with Hoyer and the others. So even though they've improved at quarterback play, they've also got Jimmy G in because he was able and is able to run plays and is mobile in a way that the other quarterbacks are not. So, and Jimmy G is accurate. No question about it. He was a favorite coming out of college. And I remember him at the Senior Bowl, okay? So, and I have an interview with him. That's right. If you go to Zinni62, you can see my interview with Jimmy Garoppolo. Ted Kush says, Campbell was good, but can he win Super Bowl? John Mark says, serious contenders in 49ers serious contenders in 2018? Maybe. Let's see how they do in draft and the free agency. Ted Cook says, we need to try EJ or Cook once Carr has failed. Nah, keep Carr in. Play out the string. We can win 3 games. Get to 9-7. Just focus on getting to 9-7. And everything else will take care of itself. Okay? That's what the Raiders need to do. Vito says, are you going to go to any Raider games next year? Yes. Corvette says, 49ers probably have a better record than the Raiders in 2018. Trip says, keep Carr in. Folks, I've been on for 72 minutes, and so I am going to right now, I'm going to sign off now. Come on back later at the regular time, because this is early. It's 5:51, almost 6 o'clock, which is almost 9 o'clock in the East, and I'll be back normal time, which is about 8:30 or so. But I'm got to go to the airport, and I want to get to the airport early, okay? So I will be back, everybody. Thank you, and thank you for your time, everyone. See you later tonight. And see you all later, all right? Take care, Kurt. Always great, John, with you. And see you later. And I'll have Crawford's not telling me to wax on, wax off. Anyway, I'll see you all later, okay? I'll see you. All right. You got it, John Marks. I'll see you. It will be a stone gas. I'll see you guys. Take care. See you.